Welcome to Conversations with Poets. I'm Michael Klam, Associate Publisher of the San Diego Poetry Annual, and I'm here with Daniela Sow. Great to have you, and looking forward to chatting. We're at Point Loma Nazarene University working with Point TV crew, and I want to thank you guys so much for all the great work this year. And got to thank Katie Manning over in the Department of Literature, Journalism, Writing, and Languages. That's the poetry department, right? Nathan Gibbs and James Wick here in the Department of Communication Studies. And of course, the City of San Diego and the Department of Cultural Affairs. They just changed the name. Oh. It was the Commission for Arts and Culture, which sounded kind of flowy and smooth, and it had the word arts in it. And now it's the Department of Cultural Affairs, the DCA. And good for them, because they created, and for us, because they created the Poet Laureate program. And we've had 2 Poet Laureates now, Jason Magabo Perez and Ron Salisbury. And Ron actually came up with the idea for Conversations with Poets. The San Diego Poetry Annual, thank you so much for all the support, and all the team of editors and hosts. That's where my heart's at. And the San Diego Entertainment and Arts Guild, and of course, the Downtown Central Library. Daniela, when I've been reading your poetry, and I've been thinking a lot about my daughter, right? Mm-hmm. You write quite a bit about family, and you've got me sort of in my head going through how we're going to navigate with her, because she comes from a not-so-little island, Ireland, and a not-so-little island, Taiwan. So she's mixed, right? Mm-hmm. And as she grows, our conversations become more and more sophisticated for her, so that she can navigate a life and be of Ireland and be of Taiwan as well. Mm-hmm. And you've had that experience in your life, yeah?
Right, so my daughter is actually mixed as well. She's Filipina and Romanian from me, and then from her father, she's Mauritanian, which Mauritania is from West Africa. So her navigating being mixed race is quite different from mine, actually, and we're both trying to help her with that. We teach her to be proud of her identity. It comes up in her poem, in the poems as well in this book. I just got Half Moon Rising published this past year. And I love this book because it explores a lot of women in my life. So not just my Lola, my grandmother, but also my mother. And I have some poems that are about me and my mixed race identity. Mm-hmm. And then towards the end of the book, I have a poem in there that deals with the confusion and the anger and resentment of people who are kind of like touching her curly hair and in her personhood, and it's not okay, right? So that kind of that poem was a vessel for me to articulate how I felt about that, because I turn into Mama Bear when I'm taking care of her and helping her navigate her world, her journey.
Oh yeah, we do too. Yeah. And her name is Anya.
Ella.
And originally Ella. Mm-hmm. And originally it was going to be spelled A-I-N-E, but we realized that would be a little bit difficult for her, especially in middle school, right? Oh. She's 13 now. And so we went with A-N-Y-A, but Anya means island of joy, right?
Oh, that's
in
beautiful.
Irish and Celtic. But she gets Anaya, she gets Anne, she gets all different, anything but Anya for some reason, you know what I mean? I was reading a specific poem called You Don't Count, and in You Don't Count you talk about lumpia, and wanting to make lumpia as good as mom makes lumpia. And by the way, to your point, you call your mom, right? You know what I mean? Like, all hail the moms and dads, right? Take care of moms and take care of dads in memory, but also right now. Call your mom, yeah? And I think, for you, it was kind of also a struggle to, be as your mom, or do as well as your mom, or to represent represent the family well, yeah? And you say, when I roll ground pork and minced onions and carrots into pale egg-washed lumpia wrappers, I'm furious at my fingers that fumble.
Right, because maybe, not only is it to honor my mother and ancestry and Filipino roots, but also here I am, an Americanized mixed race Filipino, who's trying to learn the culture, and through the, food is a big part of many people's identities. And I watched my mother, make lumpia from scratch, and it can take a while because you have to mince all the vegetables and all the meat, and you roll it up nice and tight. And I remember, watching YouTube tutorials trying to teach myself too, but they came out kind of lumpy and thick and not as pretty as I'd hope. Like I wanted them nice and neat. So that poem was a way for me to explore how the first time I tried to make lumpia from scratch, not just buy the store-bought kind all the time, it meant something deeper to me when I couldn't get it right. I was just frustrated with myself and trying to honor, that part of my heritage. So that's an identity poem, the You Don't Count poem.
No doubt. I grew up, my first 5, right? I was very young on Midway Island. My dad was there stationed in the Navy, and we were surrounded by Filipino families, and we ate lumpia. We had big parties, and we ate lumpia. That's what I taste when I think about them. I wore no shoes for the first 5 years of my life, and it felt like this, like it's kind of warm in the theater right now, It felt like that all the time. Yeah. Food and what you feel, what you think, that's where poetry comes from, something that's deeper, right? And then all those traditions, like making lumpia, that becomes part of how you experience the world and how you want people to experience the world through you too, right? Did you bring some poetry today?
Yes, I did. Would you like me to read a poem from the collection? This is a poem called Deliverance, and it's about a dream I had about my mother. When she passed away in 2013, I noticed she was coming to me through a lot of my dreams, so this is kind of like an experience that I wanted to capture. Deliverance. After the fog yawns over me, my twisting body floats to somewhere where there is no footing, and the ethereal reveals to me my long-gone mother with her dark eyes and ribboning hair. I stretch my arms and cry, "I want to be with you." She glowers at me, passes her hands over my eyelids, says, "It's not your time. Go back." Soon the harpoon of dream world releases me, and I am aching hard, cocooned into myself. Perhaps only she knows how magnificent my wings can get, brushing up against death. Her curtness, a generous kind of hurt. So I scale the closest mountain, duck between trees with thrashing arms. So I heave my body into crash after crashing wave. So I slake my quiver with acrylics, brush floral print on my walls. So I beam at every pristine painting that speaks to me, my wandering eye on Modigliani's long-necked figures, Degas' pirouetting ballerina, Picasso's pencil sketches, cross-hatched this way and that. So I run along sunset cliffs, aligned with the flight of pelicans and other birds in mid-hunt, skimming their whimsical watery reflections. Not to be preyed by time or cinders, not to look back and wonder which strike could have delivered all my longings.
Daniela Sow.
You mentioned Sunset Cliffs in there too.
I know.
I had
perfect.
the San Diego reference and the San Diego Museum of Art. There's some references in the poem to that too.
Yeah. Do you have vivid dreams about your family?
Not often. So I feel like when I have a dream about my mother, it's such a gift because it's just such a rarity and it's so moving, because we don't really know what's going on in the subconscious and in our dreams and who might visit us and have a message for us. So I felt very compelled to write this piece because it's about missing somebody but realizing you're here on earth for a fleeting amount of time, and why not just look at the beauty here and enjoy it? San Diego's beautiful, and I wanted to capture that.
Living memory, right?
Yeah,
alive
memory.
all the time, right in there. This is also a good discussion about poetry, right? That's what poetry does, keeps love alive for sure. You published Kelsey books. How was that experience? This book, when did you publish? Like it was like May of
2024.
Right?
They were great. I really liked the cover. They let me have freedom with the cover, so I chose Pollyanna D's work. It's Half Moon Rising is. This is customized mixed media, digital mixed media, and the artist is from Manila, Philippines, and she's done a lot of art shows and things like that. And so I'm grateful that the Kelsey Books editorial team, gives me some structure to how I could design my book, but overall they did such a good job making sure all the poems looked clean on every page, and they were very communicative. They run a really tight ship with the deadlines and the scheduling and
Good,
making
that's a
sure
good
the
thing.
book came out sooner than I thought it would. I thought it was going to come out in June, but they were able to get it out earlier for
Even
me.
better, right?
Yeah,
Love it.
and I got a
Instead of waiting,
personalized note
wondering.
from the editor-in-chief too. She was very
Yeah.
kind, Karen Kelsey.
I've heard nothing but good things. Nothing but
Yeah.
good things, and that's great. That you got supported. And
Yeah.
are you use water on your cover too? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like watercolor too, mixed with the digital mixed media. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very
she's
cool.
a really fine artist.
Yeah. And then so when you say that you had some control, like for artists, like someone who's publishing a book, were you worried about that? Were you worried that they would kind of take over?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was
Never
pretty. I
had
was
that
pretty
sense.
happy with the process, and
Yeah.
I think the goal was just to get my poems out in the world, and see it in print and inspire people in my community, especially my creative writing students. I want them to know that they can write and see their work published. It was a process.
Do you use your poems in your classes?
Not often. Maybe once or twice. Like I
Buy
might.
my book.
But I try, I try to
got
show them
25
other
people.
poets. But that's a good,
Right.
it's tempting, right? But it's actually like I
Well, it
invite, I let
happens.
them know when I have events. But I
Yeah.
mean, I try to
so you
focus
built an
on.
audience too,
I focus on other poets too because I want them to hear and learn from many other poets' voices.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Barbara Jane Reyes, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Let's read a Barbara Jane Reyes poem, huh?
So, Barbara Jane Reyes, I brought two of her books today, but I'm going to read a poem from one of them. I have Letters to a Young Brown Girl, and this one is called Invocation to Daughters. And I was reading these books when I was on my sabbatical leave in fall of 2022 while I was working on my own book because I was looking for really well-established, strong writers of Filipina descent, and Barbara Jane Reyes is wonderful. She has a strong, assertive voice, a voice of resistance, a voice that I can really admire.
Busy with her activism over the years.
Yeah, she's in the Bay Area,
Her
but
husband too.
she's from Manila.
Yeah, from Manila. Yeah.
So I'm going to read to you now Brown Girl Manifesto, #all Pinay Everything. Because so much depends upon the suppression of us, the erasure of us, the omission of us, because we are not made to scald, to starve, to stuff in closets, because we have our own lyrics to drop, because we inherit our mother's immodest tales, because our nests and nooks hold buttons, stones and string, press flowers, feathers, every rosebud, every bead, every tarnished charm, every scrap of paper nestled between rosaries, safety pins, and scapulars. There are always poems here. Because so much depends upon the blaming of us for birthing too many babies, for birthing none at all, because the unruled pages of this body refuse to be marked and ripped in two, because we bind our own perfect spines. Because of the low hum, soothing the lungs, thrum in the throat, buzz in the skull, till the head is numb, the body is a chamber of echoing song. Scars are stories, healed fractures are as well. This, of course, you've heard before. But not all scars are bodily. Because we are razor-tongued, this, of course, you've heard before. Because we've been told since the beginning of time to hold the tongue lest we lose it, because we still recoil at tendered words, because we remember the water's lullaby. Because we are a nation of the wretched and the occupied, we reclaim our elders' taken tongues, cut and burned, because our foremothers were taken, cut and burned too. And so we offer words, verses to warm a bomb. Because so much depends upon white nonsense and white fragility, orientalists, white microaggression, white supremacists with their shotguns and tiki torches, because telling us we don't fucking belong is an old and tired story. Because our being, our breathing, our speaking were never guaranteed, because our fathers' bones rest in this land, and we have grieved too. No, I will never leave this place. And no, I will never leave him, because his roots, this land, are also mine. because so much depends upon vacuous speech. And so sometimes it is best to refrain from all human voice, because when we sit with ourselves, there's just air, just light, and this is how we will learn to listen.
Barbara Jane Reyes.
Yeah.
San Francisco, University of San Francisco, right?
And reading it
That was-
aloud just makes me so emotional, you know,
I
just
I can feel it. I'm tingling.
feeling her spirit in this poem is just so powerful.
What a perfect poem for what's happening right now.
Right?
You know what I mean? How did your last couple of days
It's
go?
been rough.
It's been rough, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where do we go from here?
Yeah,
You know? Yeah.
it's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question. It's a big question for another interview, another time for sure.
But I was telling my students actually in creative writing today that there are poets who sometimes skirt the bigger issues. Like if it's a sensitive topic, you know what I mean? Like they won't always name it, and there's still an inherent power in the details of the poem if you're not going to name the atrocity or traumatic thing that's happened to you, right? But here I was like, wow, what a great model for actually directly naming the thing that everybody's avoiding. You know, there are so many terms here that you could go so much deeper on, right? Just through research and reading and your self-education. But that's why I love her work so much, because she's not afraid to hold back.
Indeed.
And yet she still doesn't compromise the concrete, creative details in the expression of it.
For sure.
She still paints a portrait so wonderfully. And through that refrain, through the repetition of because, I mean, you just feel such a powerful cadence, how exhausting and overwhelming it is to fight this fight all the time, you know?
Right, and you feel her release, right?
Yeah,
Suppression,
such a release.
erasure, omission, you know what I mean? Going straight to it, white supremacist, you know? Going hard for
Especially because the
a
Philippines
reason.
was colonized by the US, and there's still very much many obvious traces of that, right? So there's a whole history there, right? And so it's important to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah. What are you doing next? What do you got coming? What's going on? You got another book in the works, or
You
what's
know what's
happening?
funny? I've been so enjoying like all the readings I've been doing with this book has been wonderful. I've been invited to so many cool local spots for just the literary community to collaborate and listen and to poems and get to talk to folks, and I've been enjoying that. I've been
We
really
did a reading at
like,
Verbatim. I got to read with you, and that was very cool. And then we got to sit and answer questions, and
I loved
you know,
that.
Audience,
That
audience
was
Q&A.
secretly a dream of mine to go and do an event collaboratively at Verbatim Books. So when I heard that we were all going to be together, I thought couldn't be better.
Verbatim,
Like,
such a
this is
cool
a great
bookstore,
opportunity.
and like they have somehow managed to get everybody interested again. You know, get out to your local bookstore, and they're providing spaces too, which is great because we need it, right? Writers need spaces. I'm sure you teach that to your classes. You know, be as much an artist, but also be audience. You know, go support your fellow writers. Well, I want to thank you for coming, Daniela Sow.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for reading some poems and sharing your mentor, your inspiration, and
you.
looking forward to whatever. Are you publishing another book? You got?
No, I'm just doing a few readings right now. Like I have another one coming up next month with the Point Loma Nazarene University master's students are going to be doing a reading, and they chose 3 features to also read with them, and it's such an honor. I get to do that
Very
with
cool.
the master's students.
Yeah, with Robbie, right? Yeah.
So it'll be great. That's in December.
I love it. I love it. Please, I wanna know all about it. Send it out to everybody. Let us all know if it's open to the public for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for
you for
sharing.
having me.
Thanks for being on Conversations with Poets. And to everybody out there, go to the Downtown Central Library website, the City of San Diego website for Conversations with Poets. You can like and subscribe there, and you can get all the information, everything that's coming up for Conversations with Poets. Once again, thank you, Point TV. You guys are awesome. Thanks, Daniela.
Thank you.